Yay. Wow. I had a feeling we'd have a nice full room today, which we do. We've got about 100 folks here today on our first class for the new year. And I always feel grateful to have the opportunity to be here and show up with you all. Also realizing I'm going to switch my microphone so you can hear me better. And it's a softer sound. How's that? You hear me okay? Okay, thank you. And beyond the little technological things here, I'm also going to make sure my computer is plugged in, all of those good things. Now I'm going to dive in. Now we're going to dive in. So first class, January 6, 2024. Still blowing my mind. So we'll all accommodate to the fact that time keeps flying quickly forward, quickly. So as we focus in for this class, I have called today's class Aligning with the Inner Compass. And I think that many of us at this time of year will take a little bit of time to reflect back or hone in on some intentional ways that we move forward. And there's a practice out there of choosing a word for the year, those kinds of practices. I find them a little high pressure. Anyone else find that? I'm like, one word, just one word? I don't know if I can do that. So that's probably says something about me too, that just honing in on just one thing is not necessarily all that I want to do, which is not such a bad thing either. But I have chosen a few words for us, and I'm also going to invite you at least to start with some honed in intention for what you'd like, whether it is indeed a word that you've chosen for your year, or perhaps a kind of just broader reflection on what it is that you want to cultivate, what it is that you want to cultivate. And what I love about the image of the compass is that when we are, many of you know that I spend a lot of time in the mountains hiking and orienteering and mountain climbing and so forth. And what's beautiful about the compass is that when you're setting a compass point, you don't have to readjust it very strongly to end up in a new place, right? In fact, it's the very small adjustments that we make that help us really hone in on where we're arriving to, and that it's a good reminder that from where we're standing, sometimes it's the very small steps that help cultivate a new trajectory, a new landing point, a new arrival. And it doesn't have to be quite grandiose. So the other thing that I love about a yoga practice is that it is a culmination of a lot of small steps or shapes or breaths or intentionalities that create the entire practice, whether it's a single practice on the mat as we have today, or whether it's your practice over many years, that every time we show up on the mat, we're doing just those small steps, but they all accumulate. And so we're going to accumulate some small steps today together. A few questions, and for those of you that enjoy bringing a journal to class, you might choose to pull out a journal for these initial questions that invite you to hone in on that inner compass for yourself. The first question is, what are you seeking to create more of in your life? What are you seeking to create more of in your life? What would you define as some of your core values? How you want to live? Another way to hone in on those values is, how do you want to treat others, and how would you like to be treated by others? I'm going to share those questions again. What are you seeking to create more of in your life? How do you want to treat others? And how do you want to be treated by others? And within the yoga practice, intentionality is profound, right? It helps us return again and again to, why did I show up on my mat today? What am I hoping to cultivate more of or create? And in the yoga practice, sometimes we refer to that intention as a sankalpa, a sacred vow, or a promise that you make to your innermost self. Sankalpas might be intentioning to be more present, or a better listener, more embodied, to listen to your own body. Intentions around being courageous, empowered. Intentions around creating more space. That's one of mine for this year, slowing down a little bit and creating more space. So I'll invite you to choose one or two or three words, and you might even write them down and put them at the top of your mat when we get there. Bring them with you onto the mat. The overarching intention that I've chosen in alignment with the aligning with your inner compass is the intention I offer for today is, I am living in alignment with my innermost knowing, my wisest self, and my soul's purpose. I am living in alignment with my innermost knowing, my wisest self, my soul's purpose. And we're going to play with a little bit of a self-havening practice today. And many of you who've been with me for a while are familiar with self-havening, and it involves that self-havening touch of palm to palm and on the arms and across the face. And we're going to integrate that with some words that are really around creating possibilities. So we'll get there. Just a little heads up of where we're going today. We'll be creating possibilities today. Before we dive into that, I do indeed have a poem, and then we're going to pop on our mats for those that are joining in for our movement practice. This poem, fitting for the first practice of a new year, it is called For a New Beginning, and it is by John O'Donohue. In out of the way places of the heart, where your thoughts never think to wander, this beginning has been quietly forming, waiting until you were ready to emerge. For a long time, it has watched your desire, feeling the emptiness growing inside you, noticing how you willed yourself on, still unable to leave what you had outgrown. It watched you play with the seduction of safety and the gray promises that sameness whispered. Heard the waves of turmoil rise and relent, wondered, would you always live like this? Then the delight when your courage kindled and out you stepped onto new ground. Your eyes young again with energy and dream, a path of plenitude opening before you. Though your destination is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning that it is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Hold nothing back. Learn to find ease in risk. Soon you will find home in a new rhythm. For your soul senses the world that awaits you. With this, I'll just name that sometimes, even if we don't know yet what the intention is, what the word of the year is, who I'm becoming, what's going to unfold, we can set the intention to allow that unfolding to occur simply by listening and following those small, sweet signals of feedback that you receive again and again that says, yes, this is right. Yes, this is for me. I'm going to shift onto my mat, or at least a little closer to it. I'm going to stay a little bit more visible for the first practice, but inviting you to shift. I will also say, as we make that shift that I didn't say earlier, it is helpful to have a strap for today's practice. So you might want to have that by your mat, and I'm always a fan of 1 or 2 blocks. And as you arrive in readiness for the next phase of our practice together, I will invite you to come back to your word or words and to begin a little bit of that self-havening touch. You can start with your hands, just feeling palm to palm, nice and slow. And hands to shoulders, down to elbows. And across forehead to temples, across your cheekbones to temples. And as you continue with the touch, I'll offer up a few words that you can either repeat out loud or quietly to yourself. What if I were? And add in your word. I'll hold as a placeholder for now. What if I were living in alignment with my innermost knowing? What if I were? What if I were living in alignment with my wisest self, my soul's purpose? And continuing with the touch, a slight change in wording. I can be, or I can live in alignment with my innermost knowing. You can fill in with your word. I can be. I can be strong, courageous, connected, supported. Slight change in words. I will be. I will live in alignment with my innermost knowing, my wisest self, my soul's purpose. I will. And finally, I am. I am. Fill in with your word. I am. I am living in alignment with my innermost knowing, my wisest self, my soul's purpose. And maybe for just a moment, palm to palm at heart center, sensing and feeling the power of words and intentionality. Beautiful. And I'll invite you to take hold of a strap or a towel or a scarf or whatever strappy-like thing you might have that could support you for this next bit of practice. And just have that by your side. So that as we come into just a little bit of movement, a little bit of free flow here, opening through your shoulders, your wrists, your elbows, your spine, taking all of that intentionality and giving it some juice with breath, with intuitive movement, and also just letting it go. Letting go of the need to know, the need to understand, and dropping the whole channel, the whole center of gravity right down into your body. The place of the innermost knowing, where I truly believe that instinctual body is where that compass in many ways resides, just letting yourself find and move and breathe and feel and let your voice go. Curl in, expand. Space for you. Space for you to be. And then from here, from this place of arriving in, of breathing in, I'll invite you to just even bring your hands to your belly if that's comfortable for you, and sending your breath all the way down into low belly, pelvis. You can sit however you are. I'm actually in my pajama top this morning. Be comfortable, right? Let yourself just kind of hang out on a Saturday. Well, it's morning here. I know it's evening for some of you, but just let yourself be comfortable in your skin. It's probably the largest goal of this practice, is to find that. And even if it's just 5% right now of comfort in your own skin, that's something. I'll invite us to come into legs and feet for a moment, just to finding some gentle movements, ankle, maybe shin around knee, maybe leg around hip. Just again, more open flow, but arriving. And I'm starting with right leg. It doesn't really matter. We're going to do both sides. I will invite you to use your strap, and whether your strap has a little loop or not, doesn't really matter. Just kind of taking your foot into the strap, and then just start to swing your leg a little bit, and your hands can be assistants here. So you might swing with a nice deep bent leg. You might lengthen a little bit more here if that feels right for you. And just finding a little bit of free, open movement, breath, opening your leg one direction and the other, crossing your body. Just getting used to a little bit of this opening through your side of your leg, back of your leg. You can also pull your leg in. You don't need the strap for this per se, and just kind of rock your leg a little bit here. Hand to knee and foot, or maybe even into elbow creases. And then letting that go, switching sides, and just starting with those joint rotations on the other side, one direction and the other, around your ankle, your knee, your hip, getting nice and embodied in your legs, hips. And if you enjoyed working with the strap here, you might play with that a little bit on side two, wherever that is for you, untangling it if it got into a big knot there, and just finding a little bit of more range of motion. What's nice about the strap is that you don't have to be able to touch your toes, right? You can really just play with a range of motion that feels supportive for you, and you might even get a little linear and playful in that range of motion. Ah. Letting your voice go. Hmm. Mhm. And then maybe that rocking of the leg, cradling in your arms, and releasing, letting go. If you'd like, perhaps taking a hold of the strap between your hands, nice and wide here. And now the strap in your upper body gives a little bit of a different proprioceptive orientation to space. You can kind of roll it open to one side and the other. Take your arms down and forward, back and up. And if the strap is really wide enough, you might be able to take your arms behind you and around and in front, lubricating through the shoulder joints and opening space around your heart, upper back, chest. Good. And then I'll invite you to set that down, set your strap alongside your mat. We'll come back to it in a little bit. But for now, I'll invite you to make your way into a child's pose. And that child's pose might be knees together, might be knees wide, feet together. Doesn't really matter so long as it feels like the right shape for you. Sometimes it can feel a little uncomfortable or crunched in this shape. And if that's true, you might lift your hips and bow your upper body forward in more of a puppy dog shape, or place a bolster between hips and heels. And then a brief pause from all of that movement into this shape, arriving with what is being called from you, for you here. Coming back into the sensing of self. And if you'd like, invitation to walk your hands off to the left side of your mat. In doing so, you'll likely feel a little opening along the right side of your body, a little sinking of your hips towards your right heel. Mm. And then a walking of your hands off to the other side, to the right. Breathing into the intercostals, the space between your ribs on the left side body. You can press into your hands, press your hips in the opposite direction, and mostly let it feel good. And then gently coming back through to center and walking yourself up through table for a moment, just enough to curl your toes under and begin to sit your hips back toward your heels. Many of you have done this with me before. We're in toes pose. And toes pose is, again, a rooting pose, an opportunity to sense and feel the soles of your feet. You might reach around and widen the pinky toes a little bit, giving your toes that wide base. And this might be a lot of pressure, weight down into your feet. And if you need to walk yourself forward a little bit and choose how much weight goes into your feet. You listen. Settling, breathing, expanding. And then coming off of the toes, you might tap them out for a moment. Some of you have done this with me as well. Now the invitation is to sit back toward your heels, tops of feet down on the mat. That might be plenty opening for your ankles or knees. Some of you might seek a little bit more. Then we can do so by lifting one knee and the other, or even a little playful balance, lifting both knees for a moment. Ooh. And we're not there for too long, coming right back out. Curling toes under again, walking back onto the balls of the feet, lifting knees, and it's a tight little squat. Sometimes this is referred to as ball of yarn. You can imagine here, you are that ball of yarn curled upon itself, feeling that potential energy within you really drawing inward, feeling that you can get nice and tight and small here, contracted, all of that potential energy wound up, ready for the movement that's to come. You might even give yourself a little bounce play. And sometimes it can be nice to widen out through your feet. I drop my knees to do that and lift back up. And now I'm in a wider squat. Knees can be more broad here, and then just a little swing from side to side. And the whole purpose of these initial movements is to root into your feet, ankles, knees, and hips. As we get into the joints of the lower body, waking up that sensory feedback of where you begin and end in space, and a nice grounding emphasis as we start. Good. And then from here, an invitation to come back forward. We're going to come back into a tabletop. We were just here, and you might take a few breaths in free flow in table just to work out whatever that lower body movement touched off, and hips low back. However your body wants to make that yours. Good. And then I'll invite some more guided movement, knowing you can opt in, opt out, listen to yourself. First part is to send your left leg back and to give yourself a little rock on your left ball of foot, heel. It's rocking into the calf. And then I'll invite you to turn toward your left leg. So my right shin goes back. It's like a setup for gate. And we're not going quite into gate, but I'll invite you to reach your left hand toward your left foot and then away. And it's up to you. You can keep your left toes on the mat, or you might explore flexing them. And just allow it to feel good. There's no right or wrong way to do this. Finding your way in and out with your breath. Beautiful. Nice. And then from here, I'll invite you to turn back toward the front, like our tabletop, and left leg this time to bend. And I'll invite you to kind of set as if you're going to put your left leg, your left foot up on the ceiling, so like a little footprint up there, and then just a few presses upward, waking up through the back side of your left leg, lower back, hip. And then you can sense here, perhaps, that the spine is in more of a cow shape, right? If I were in a cat shape, I'd be rounding the spine. A cow shape here is, hips lifted, heart lifted, yeah? I'm going to invite you to keep that cow shape in the low back. Keep that arch in the low back, and then draw your left knee under. The range of motion is small, but you'll probably feel some rich sensations all around your left hip, so as low back. And again, two more here. Inhale, exhale under, inhale, exhale. Good. And then this time we're going to do the opposite. Go ahead, press your foot up and round your spine as your knee comes under. Let's do that again. And then lifting up, exhale, left knee, left shoulder, coming back around. Left knee, left shoulder, exhale. This time planting your left foot down and sitting back. So now we've landed in a half squat. Right knee towards the earth, left knee up. And if that's too much on the knees, then you can be up here. You can be higher up. So feel that out for yourself, whether you're in a higher half squat or a low down half squat. And then just a few breaths, free form, working your way in. Remember our intention, a deep rooting here to support all of that growth potential, those possibilities that we're creating together, the intentions and the journey ahead. Lots of rooting and grounding. Good. And you can see that you can take this shape. It has so much potential movement within it, right? You can take it in so many directions. You can curl toward your left leg. You can open away. You can ground right on in. You can be lifted, eventually meeting back in a tabletop. And we'll find all that on side two. When you're ready, it's right leg back and behind. And if you did the other side, doesn't matter. Both sides get their care here. And then just a few heel rocks. And as we begin to turn upper body toward the right leg, left shin goes back, right hand can reach toward your right foot and then away. And a few breaths like that, just making it yours. You can keep right foot grounded or lift the toes. Good. And then all the way up, back around into tabletop. Now that we've been here before, this will feel somewhat familiar. Begin to just place that right footprint on the ceiling this time. A few pulses upward. waking up through the back of your leg, and then keeping that cow shape in your spine, drawing right knee under and pressing back up. Exhale, inhale to lift. 2 more like that. Good. And now switching where we'll round the spine. Inhale, rounding your spine. Inhale, right knee, right shoulder. Exhale. Inhale and exhale. All right, we might have done an extra here. Go ahead and lift and exhale, right foot to the mat, and preparing for that half squat shape. You can be low down, you can be lifted, whatever feels comfortable for you. And just finding your way in, finding any free form movement from this shape that has all of this potential built within it. Rooting into your hips, feet, knees, side bodies, twisting toward your leg and away. Good. And then eventually meeting back in a tabletop. From this tabletop, the invitation is to find your first downward facing dog. Just allowing yourself to let that be yours as well. Walk it out. Let your head hang, let your voice go. Give it a sigh. Maybe you shift your hips a little from side to side. Give your hips a little twisting action. Good. And then from this downward dog shape, I'm going to invite you to just round your spine forward. So you're moving from downward dog into a high plank, and then bending your knees, pressing back, downward facing dog. And again, a rounding forward and a pressing back. And this third time through, rounding yourself forward, high plank. Knees to earth, chest, chin to earth, and settling onto the earth, onto your belly. Once you arrive there, allowing yourself to make your way into some rolling cobras. And this too is yours. You get to be at choice about how much weight in your hands, if any at all, how much lift of your heart. Lengthening yourself forward, grounding into the tops of your feet. Moving with your rhythm, your breath. And slithering yourself back into child's pose once again. Second time in this shape, and arriving for a moment in stillness. When and if you feel ready to move on and forward, pressing up through table, Pressing into hands, feet, meeting in downward facing dog. And once again, second time here in this shape, opportunities to notice the subtle changes through the accumulated layers of practice. And then this time, an invitation to gaze forward, walking yourself toward the front of the mat, finding a halfway lift. Exhale to fold. Inhale all the way to standing. And exhale, samastitihi. A nice opportunity, if you'd like, to return to your intention. Here we are, new relationship to gravity, standing up, energy moving. Beautiful. And I'll invite a little side body as we're making our way up. Now, don't lose, I'll invite you, please don't lose that sense of connection all the way down through the legs that we've worked so hard to cultivate, right? So you can keep your knees bent a little bit if you need here, give them a little bounce so that even as we come into a side body opener, you feel, and one great way to feel this is even to take a block and give that your legs a little bit of feedback by pressing into the block to sense and feel, oh yeah, I still have legs under me. And as if you were to try and take your block and send it back, you're drawing your legs and even inner thighs just slightly back as the tailbone then roots downward. Now you've got your legs under you. Great. Then let's take the arms up overhead. And really just the intuitive side body opener here. If you want one arm by your side, if you want to reach for your wrist, if you want to look down to the front or up, let yourself find that. But again, we've got the legs on board in the practice. And then we're going to take this to side two and feel that pressure inward toward the block, slightly backward, and then reaching into your side body. It may change how you want to approach your side body stretch. Might change the range of motion for you to really feel your legs underneath you. And then we'll take it one more time to each side. Again, your variation. And then back through to center. And block probably helpful to set back down for this next part. And a slight invitation just to lift your heart, slight back bend here. And exhale, forward fold over your legs once again. Inhale to a halfway lift. And exhale, this time from this shape, stepping back, high plank. And your choice, knees, chest, chin, or high plank. You can come down to a low plank, rolling over your toes for upward facing dog, or from the floor up to cobra. And exhale, pressing back, downward facing dog. We'll repeat that last process, that sun salutation, one more time, gazing forward, hopping or stepping your way to the front of your mat. Inhale, finding a halfway lift. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, all the way up to standing. Exhale, samastitihi. And even if you don't use the block, imagine it's there, that same action in the legs beneath you, side body. Inhale through center, side body. Through center, inhale, lifting open through your heart. And exhale, forward fold. Halfway lift. And planting your hands, your choice how you'd like to arrive at downward dog, whether you would like a vinyasa through, whether you want to skip that and simply step back. And from this downward facing dog, our next transition will be to seated, coming down onto your back. You have choices of how to get there. One is simply lower your knees, swing your legs forward. The second is maybe you jump forward and come to sitting. Come to sitting. As you arrive here, our first invitation is to lean back just a little bit here and feel the lift of your heart, simultaneously sensing the tether to your belly, to your hips, to your legs. So you're rooting down even as you lift through your heart. Hands can be here for support, to find that lift and lengthening. And then from here, perhaps taking that to the next layer here, which would be coming into boat pose, hands behind your legs, your knees, and feeling that same quality of the lift, the engagement of your legs. Maybe hands are behind your legs, maybe they're by your sides. And just feeling that balancing right behind your sit bones and the length, the lift of your heart, and then lowering that back down. Next invitation, as they all are, is we'll add in just a little bit of a breath of fire here. And this breath of fire is short and potent. And it's an invitation to draw the navel back towards the spine, again, generating lots of energy in this core potential creative willful center in the body, all that fuels all of that intentionality. So you can use your hands to support you or not, that's up to you. And in this lifted spine shape, inhale here and exhale, let it go. And now invitation to roll onto your back and just let that settle in. Bring a strap with you and a block with you, please. Arriving on your back, taking a moment just to sense and feel. And we'll do a little bit more core engagement and awakening here. Invitation is to bring a block between your inner thighs. Now, once again, a great way to feel your legs on board in this shape. It will wake them up in your mental awareness to press inward toward that block. And invitation to take hands behind your head, squeeze the block with your lower body, and exhale to lift. Inhale to lower, and just finding a few of these to start. Your rhythm, your breath. Good. Now you can stay with this simple movement. The next series adds on to it. So feel out which ones feel right for you. The next option is to exhale your arms out in front of you and then inhale, staying with shoulders lifted, lifting your feet off the ground for a moment. Exhale, lower your feet, lift your shoulders just a little bit more. Inhale, lower down, hands up overhead. It's a complicated movement. It's a complex movement. I'll talk you through it. Exhale, arms forward. Inhale, feet lift. Exhale, feet down, lift a little higher. Inhale, lower arms overhead. Once again, exhale, inhale, feet. Exhale, feet lift a little higher. Inhale, lower down. It gets less complex the more you do it. Exhale, inhale, feet. Exhale, feet lift a little higher. Inhale, lower. And again, exhale, inhale. Exhale, lift, and inhale. Last one like that. Exhale, inhale. Exhale, inhale. Beautiful. And then hands behind your head. Similar movement, adding in oblique side body into the mix. And we're taking right elbow toward the left. Inhale, if you'd like, lifting the feet, lowering, exhale to center, inhale down. Exhale to the right. Inhale, feet. Exhale, feet to center, inhale down. Exhale, left. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale, lower. Exhale, right. Inhale, legs. Exhale, legs. Come to center. Inhale down. And let that go. A lot going on there. If it made sense, if it didn't make sense, if you feel your core, that was the point, and I'm glad for you. We're going to use it as we come up to standing shortly. We have one more short core strengthener to go here. This time, invitation to take your feet off the ground and block to your left thigh. Legs are together, but block just on your left thigh. Right elbow to your block, hands behind your head. Complex. And from here, if you'd like, you can stay right here in this isometric hold, or maybe extend your right leg and rebend it. Inhale to rebend. Exhale. And one more like that. Beautiful. Back through center. And block to right thigh, left elbow to block, hands to hold your head. Stay here in the isometric hold, squeezing block to elbow, elbow to block, to thigh, or maybe extend your left leg. Inhale in, exhale. One more like that. And let it go. Throw the block at something, just not your computer or your TV or whatever you're watching this on. Okay, I'm just teasing. All right, you might take your knees in your hands and give them a rotation in one direction or the other. Let that feel good. And then your strap, handy dandy strap, hopefully nearby as well. Invitation to take that, maybe a loop or not, doesn't matter, around your left foot. And right foot can be bent, right leg can be bent, or maybe long on your mat. And for a brief moment here, just feeling your leg hang in the strap. And then maybe sending your left leg out to the left. And that range of motion is really up to you, and there's no goal to achieve, just finding a little bit of a stretch here. You can also take your right hand on your right hip so that it's just your leg that's opening and not rolling the right hip off the ground. It can also be nice to take your left elbow on the ground so your left hand can hold the strap and be supported. And then coming back through center, we're going to come just slightly past midline. So we're not going to go all the way into a twist, but just a few inches past midline with your left foot toward the right generally wakes up some of that sensation in IT band and so forth. And you can even use your left hand to press your left hip down towards the bottom of your mat. Beautiful. We'll let that go and we'll find side two. Strap around right foot. If you're with me on the sides here, left leg can stay bent or long, and a few breaths here to hammock your right leg in the strap. Just let it be held, effortlessly held. Ah. And then maybe opening your right leg to the right. You can stabilize with right elbow on the earth, with left hand on left hip. And just finding your way into the range of motion that supports you here. Hmm. And then up through center and slightly past center. You can hold the strap if you like with your left hand now and use your right hand toward your right hip, sending it down as if toward your left foot, right down towards that short end of your mat. So you're giving a little more length to your right side body as you cross midline. Ah, hello, legs. And then let's let all of that go as well. Send your strap aside. We'll use it again later. Hands behind your knees and a few rocks on your spine here. Eventually, I'll invite you to rock all the way over your shins. We'll meet in table, or if you like, downward dog. And it can feel good from either shape to lift through your heart. So maybe a little cow pose here, just opening that front line of your body that we just awakened in that core work. Or you might come forward into a little bit of a cobra or an upward facing dog. Eventually meeting back in downward facing dog. So we have a standing series here to come that's a fun one in my opinion, and it's willful practice. So checking in with yourself, are you up for a little bit more standing willful practice? Making your way to the front of the mat, however you'd like to get there, hop, step, jump, walk, and eventually coming up to standing. Great moment, if you'd like, returning to Samastitihi, legs underneath you. Yeah. And coming back to your intention, your word or words. I will offer up the words. I am living in alignment with my innermost knowing, my instinctual, wisest self, my soul's purpose. Hmm. And then from here, I'll invite you to come into an Utkatasana. An Utkatasana, our chair shape here, an invitation to find this in the way that best supports you. Now, again, we've had a lot of leggy practice today, so you will hopefully really sense and feel your legs underneath you. And as we get into that chair, how does it also feel to lift through your heart, maybe even lift through your arms? Feeling that juxtaposition of grounding into the earth and reaching into the realms of potential. And the breath, intentionality, the space in between. And some movement with breath, inhale here, and exhale to sweep your arms back. And again, an opportunity to let something go that no longer serves you, creating space for what you're bringing in. Good. One more like that. And inhale. And still in chair pose, invitation to take your arms right out in front of you, right out from your shoulders. And your word or whatever you'd like to work with here, what if? What if I can create space? What if I can live in alignment with my innermost knowing, my wisest self, my soul's purpose? What if, fill in the blank? Lifting your arms overhead. I can. I can be, I can live, I can. Drawing your arms back behind you. Feel the lift of your heart. I will. I will. And palm to palm, heart center, press into your feet, standing strong, samastitihi, I am. I am living in alignment with my innermost knowing, my wisest self, my soul's purpose. From here, invitation to draw your arms up overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, planting your hands. Now you can step right back, downward facing dog. Some of you might find a vinyasa, up to you. From downward facing dog, invitation to take your right leg behind. And exhale, forward and through. Now, you can take a few moments here if you like, our first lunge of this practice, and maybe just in and out of your lunge a few times. Blocks can be nice for that. Good. And eventually from this lunge, an invitation for a slightly widened stance, meaning feet hip widths or even wider, and grounding through your left heel. And placing hands to hips, lifting up in preparation for a warrior one. Now, warrior one, we are working toward squaring the hips forward, but you just find where your hips naturally arrive at their range of motion, where they say, that's enough for me, right? And then drawing arms forward. What if? Arms to lift. I can. Arms behind. I will. Heart center. I am. And an invitation from here to open this into a warrior two shape. So a little footwork here, maybe a slightly wider stance, and then a little bit more fire, a little bit more fire. You hanging with me? We're doing okay? Whew, fiery practice. All right, invitation to take both arms forward and to draw the bow with your left hand, okay? So now we're in a warrior with a bow. You can lift your right thumb if you like. Gazing at your right thumb, either long, deep breathing or a short, round breath of fire. Inhale. We're going to let go of the bow. We're going to reach upward towards the realms of potential. And exhale, up and over, down and around, grounding, stepping back, downward facing dog. And a brief moment between sides, knees to earth. Yeah, you know where we're going. Child's pose. Integrate, let that side in. Mm. Coming back to ground with all of that fiery energy. Notice the state of your mind, emotions, energy. Harnessing, honing in, knowing that all of you is welcome here. Whatever arises, whatever shaking, release, it's all welcome. It's creating space. And yes, we have a side two to go. Let's go ahead and find our way there. If you're up for it today, let's go ahead and come through table, making your way into a downward facing dog. And from downward facing dog, inhale, sending left leg back behind, forward and through. And then a few breaths just for you, finding your way into the lunge on side two. And then eventually preparing to come up into warrior one. Nice wide stance of your feet, maybe hands to hips for the transition. Feeling your legs underneath you. I'm guessing you're going to feel them for the rest of the day. That's my hope. That's my hope. For those of you that are practicing this in the evening, it might be an enlivening practice. So maybe not too close to bedtime. Okay. So as you're finding your way into Warrior One, you can play a little bit with squaring the hips, just finding that natural stopping point. Don't worry about it so much. And then invitation to draw your arms right out in front of your shoulders. What if, right? Using your own words, your own intentionality, or joining me. What if I were living in alignment with my innermost knowing, my wisest self, my soul's purpose? Drawing arms up overhead, I can. And drawing your arms back, I will. Lifting your heart. Good. And then palm to palm at heart center, I am. And then from here, we'll open it up into warrior two. Take a moment, get your feet underneath you. And then bringing both arms out front. Here's your bow. You're going to draw it back. Left thumb can lift. And a short round breath of fire. Inhale. Exhale, let the bow go. And reach up. And exhale to the earth. Hands plant, left foot steps back to meet the right. Ah. And for this transition, an invitation to walk your hands back toward your feet, bend your legs as much as you need. Maybe grab your strap while you're down there and bring it with you as we meet in standing. Okay. So our standing balance today is putting a lot of this together, and an invitation to come into a one-legged balance shape with or without the strap. I'm going to show it first and invite you to join me first without the strap. You can just let it hang over your shoulder for a moment. And I'll use left leg as grounded standing leg and an invitation to take the right leg off the floor. And you can always use a wall or a chair to support you. And you can always use your hands underneath your leg or hand on your knee. And then from here, just feeling what balance requires, right? The gaze, your breath, a whole lot of intentionality. And then maybe opening right knee to the right. You might even experiment taking your gaze to the left. And then knee to center. And switching hands, left hand to right knee, and gazing to the right, maybe even slightly behind you, maybe right arm reaches behind you. And then through center, letting that go, shaking it out. We'll do the same thing on the left, and then we'll play around perhaps with doing that with a strap, or you can repeat this. Right leg, grounding leg, left leg lifts. And a moment here just to orient. And then perhaps left leg opens to left, gaze to right. And coming back through center, switching out the hand. And maybe gaze to the left. Maybe left hand behind, maybe gazing towards your left fingertips. And then coming back slowly, intentionally, or falling out of it, all is welcome. Good. Repeating that, or if you'd like, coming into this with a strap. And a nice way to do this is as you lift that right leg, you can just place the leg into the strap and then using your hands at whatever length of the strap you need, maybe exploring sending your leg all the way long, right? So foot in strap. And again, orienting. Now, if you're falling out, just let go of the strap, right? Don't try and hold on to the strap as you fall. So your foot is free to help you orient to the ground. Good. And then maybe opening right leg to the right. Maybe gazing to your left. Your left arm might even reach to the left. And then, right, coming back through to center, falling out, coming back in, all is welcome. You can switch the hand on the strap. Maybe your gaze comes to the right. Maybe it comes slightly behind you. Maybe your arm reaches back. And then back around, forward and front and center, and letting that go and shaking it out. Anyone else's legs trembling today? Woo! It's a big practice. Thanks for joining me. Cool. All right, we've got one more side to go here. So as we balance on the right leg, left leg lifts. You can take your foot in strap and experiment with what might allow you to lengthen that leg. You've got your go-go gadget arms, your extra length arms with your strap, orienting to balance. Maybe taking left leg to the left. Maybe, ooh, gaze to the right. And coming back through center, falling in and out, all is welcome. Switching hand on the strap and beginning to twist upper body, gaze, arm to the left. Back through front, center, and then releasing. Letting that side go. That's the end of our strap. You can put that aside. Shake it out if you'd like. Beautiful. We're going to make our way to the earth for some settling in and receiving of this practice. So I'll invite you to take your arms up overhead if you'd like. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, your way to downward dog, with or without the flow. And from downward facing dog, invitation to draw your right knee towards your right wrist. We're coming into a pigeon shape. And as with everything, take your time, set yourself up for success. If you need to come to your back for figure 4, doing so, honoring your knees. It can sometimes be nice to have a block under your right hip. And it can also, at least in my body, feel really empowering to take a moment before settling into resting pigeon to have an uplifted pigeon, to draw it all into midline. These legs that we've been awakening, feel that drawing into midline, that uplift of your heart. And then, if and when you'd like, a settling forward in a resting shape. Softening in to stillness. Letting the effortful elements of this practice be released, set aside, softening, jaw, shoulders. Breath just allowed to happen here. Weight into gravity, head heavy. Even your mind can set aside the actions of intending and doing and striving to simply be and receive. You can stay here longer, or perhaps joining me as we press up, shifting weight to your right hip, just to shift your yourself forward. So we'll come into a single leg stretch over your left leg. And if you were in pigeon, that transition should set you up well for this. And I'll even invite you, if possible, once you have that sense of the transition, just to close your eyes, if that's comfortable for you, to keep a bit of that inward turn in these final shapes. And you don't have to worry so much about alignment and getting it right. Just finding a little bit of that resting into yourself, thanking your legs for all they do for you. And then just as we came in, just turning yourself back around towards the front and making your way into side two. And if you want to go from a downward dog into pigeon, go for it. There is this little final invitation of a willful moment, a lifting up in this shape, a setting it up for yourself for success. Maybe drawing legs toward each other, feeling that uplift before settling down forward into resting pigeon. Arriving, head heavy, maybe resting your head onto a block if the floor feels far away, or a bolster, a blanket. You get to adapt and modify all of these shapes so that they actually serve you. You are not in service of a shape. Let your breath go. Sigh something out. Mm. Can you sense the earth beneath you, the gravity holding you? And gently, slowly, lovingly, perhaps even with your eyes closed, pressing up, beginning to turn towards your right extended leg and finding a forward fold, one that feels nourishing and supportive. And you can always support that with blocks and blankets and bolsters. Nothing to achieve. And then very slowly, this time as you sit up, I'll invite you just to simply send your left leg to join your right. And from this shape to roll all the way down onto your back. arriving here in preparation for the final integration and resting shape, you can perhaps maybe tuck your knees in, curl into a tight ball before eventually making your way into final Shavasana. And if you're wanting a different resting shape to close with, if you are needing any final movements before we move into this final shape, honoring your body. And I will keep us here for about 3 minutes or so, and encourage you to stay perhaps even longer. I'm going to share a few words as you rest here. The most profound integration of your yoga practice happens when you allow yourself to rest. Resting into stillness gives you time to absorb the new patterns that you created in your practice. Integrating these changes into your overall sense of self is what allows you to transform over time. Settling into stillness allows you to access the inner wisdom that can be found within the depths of your psyche. As if diving deep below the surface of the ocean, you find the slowest moving currents of your soul's wisdom. Within these depths, you connect to your intuition. And as you reside in this deep connection to your heart, you learn to trust this inner knowing, which becomes the guiding compass for your life's decisions. And though your destination is not yet clear, you can trust the promise of this opening. Unfurl yourself into the grace of beginning, that it is at one with your life's desire. Awaken your spirit to adventure. Holding nothing back, you learn to find ease in risk. And soon you will find home in a new rhythm for your soul senses the world that awaits you. And as I've mentioned already, it is in this residing in stillness that integrates the power of this practice. So I do encourage you to stay longer. And if you are ready or needing to transition, slowly doing so by wiggling your fingers and toes, maybe rotating hands around the wrists, feet around your ankles, hugging your knees in, asking yourself, how would you best like to transition up to sitting? And once you do arrive, if you choose, perhaps palm to palm at your heart one more time, returning to your why, what brought you here today, this powerful intention setting, aligning with your inner compass practice. And it is from that deep, wisest self within me that I bow to the deep, wisest self within you. Namaste.